With the massive rollout in product, Mattel is thinking about everybody, from collectors to kids. And this is a line that I'm pretty excited to dive into. Today, we're going to be checking out a selection of figures from the brand new Masters of the Universe Kids Core lineup. Hey guys, I am Pixel Dan, and I've been having so much fun just checking out all of this new product coming out for the Masters of the Universe movie, hitting theaters this June. And back at Toy Fair, we were shown two different toy lines. We had the Collector's Chronicles line, which are the more detailed, more articulated 6.5-inch figures. But then we've got this smaller 5.5-inch scale line, which is aimed more at kids, which, come on, man. The original He-Man line was made for us as kids, so I love to see them really targeting kids, hoping that kids are really going to be into this movie and they're going to want to act out their adventures with their toys. That's always the hope here, right? That's what we're hoping for. But this line is something that just really stood out to me because these figures look nice. Like, they've got really good likenesses, they're colorful, and these are $9.99. They are $10 price point toys, which seems like such a smart move on Mattel's part to get parents to be okay with buying these figures for their kids. $10. It's crazy that we're in a point now, first of all, that we're like $10 is a great deal for a toy. But to be perfectly honest, it is. Like, that's the price point you typically see for things like Ninja Turtles from Playmates and other toy lines that are more kid focused. So $9.99 on these basic figures. And we've got a pretty good assortment here today. I think I basically got wave 1 and 2 sitting here, plus the Roton. So wave 1 is He-Man, Teela, and Beastman. And you can see the new card backs for these, which has He-Man and Skeletor facing off in the background. The card backs are nice. They're very eye-catching. They're bright and colorful. They've got the movie logo. And then on the back of the packaging, look at that, Castle Grayskull in the background, and you can see the 3 figures there for this wave. Also interesting that they gave them like stats. Look at this. We've got like strength, combat, intelligence, magic, and tech. So we got all these stats for the characters. He-Man's intelligence is only like halfway up, man. What the but his magic is pretty low, which is interesting because he's imbued with the power of Grayskull. Tech, okay, I get that. Look, tech is a little higher on Teela. She's a little smarter in that realm. Low on magic, high on intelligence. So Beastman, I'm kind of surprised his strength. Oh wait, we're going opposite over here. I see. Okay, so his strength is pretty high. Yeah, his intelligence is low. That makes sense. That makes sense. And then I think what is wave 2 here is Skeletor, a Skell Knight, and Mekaneck, which is awesome. Look at those bright colors on Mekaneck there. And of course, our main villain, Skeletor. The Skell Knight is awesome because he's almost like an army builder, right? Very cool stuff. And then again, you've got stats on the back. We got Snake Mountain on the back of the villains, which I just noticed too. Castle Grayskull on the back of the good guys. But you can see the 3 figures there in the cross cell. I love that the Skell Knight even has strength, combat, intelligence, tech, evil. Like, is this the same for every single Skell Knight? They all match, they're all identical with their stats. And then the other thing we're going to be looking at in this video is the Roton, and I've been really excited for this. I got to play with this at Toy Fair a little bit. You can see it's in Try Me packaging. Right? So this thing just really gets your attention. You're going to want to pick this thing up on the store shelf and just play with it with that buzzsaw effect. So this looks really fun. And you can see they've got Skeletor writing it on the back. But we're definitely going to test this out with the different figures. I'm actually curious how the Roton's going to work with some of the different scales in the new Masters of the Universe stuff too. So anyway, that's enough about the packaging. Let's open these toys up and play. Oh wait, and Battlecat. I can't forget about Battlecat. We've got him here for this line as well. He's also in a Try Me package. We've got an action feature. Oh, ferocious roar, bobbing head. Man, I am so excited to get these guys opened up. Okay, let's go ahead and kick things off by taking a look at our first batch of heroic warriors. So I'm gonna bring in the tape measure to show you that this new Kids Core line is technically 5.5 inches tall. You can actually see He-Man is pushing a little close to 6 inches there, but they are officially calling these 5.5 inches tall. It's a different 5.5 than Masters of the Universe Origins or your vintage figures, because one of the things, like when I look at these, my brain had a hard time at first divorcing the bulky, squat look that Masters of the Universe is known for from this like 5.5-inch scale. Because these obviously have much more realistic human proportions as opposed to the kind of squat, bulky, over-the-top figures from the vintage Masters of the Universe line. I love that. I love that about MOTU, and that's like what made MOTU. So it took me a little bit to like break that in my brain, because these are really good toys. And I'm gonna show you as we're getting into this. So first of all, I wanna talk about the overall sculpt of these guys, because keep in mind that this line is a $10 price point. These are $10 action figures that are priced low because they want moms and dads to buy these for their kids. But look at the overall sculpt and detail of this. This is an incredibly good likeness to the actor on a $10 action figure. In fact, if I bring in the 6-inch MOTU Chronicles He-Man, which is the $25 collector figure, you can see that they are very similar. Like, those head sculpts might be the same. I have seen some people reporting that there might be a variation, or that there definitely is a variation with the Chronicles He-Man, and maybe the face sculpt is different, or at the very least the paint deco is different. I haven't confirmed that myself yet because I haven't seen differences in person, but I'm looking at these two side by side, and the paint jobs are different between the two figures, but those sculpts look pretty similar to each other. Like, it's impressive how good this $10 kids figure looks. And all of the details are fully painted. You don't really see anything like left unpainted that should be painted. Like, maybe there's some less details. Like, when you look at the belt, obviously, in Chronicles compared to the kids line, you don't have all the rivets painted. You don't have the extra bronze on the belt buckle. But like, nothing about this looks unfinished. This still looks really nice, and he's a solid feeling action figure. He doesn't feel hollow or lightweight, and get a load of the articulation on these things. You do have a ball joint at the head. You have the arms that can go outwards, forwards, backwards, swivel at the elbow, bend at the elbow, swivel at the wrist, hinge at the wrist. You can turn at the waist. Look at that. You got the ball-like joints at the thighs. The legs can go outwards, forwards, backwards, bend at the knee, swivel at the knee, and then that's it. So there's nothing in the ankles or anything. But like, that is an impressive amount of articulation for a figure at this scale, at this price point that is aimed more at kids. This is like far above what I was expecting of these figures. It's pretty impressive. One of the other interesting details on He-Man here is that you can remove the loincloth. It's a removable separate piece on this figure, which, if you remember, it wasn't on Chronicles, but it is on this figure, and it reveals like straight up classic furry underwear, the furry loincloth. So if you want like a more classic looking He-Man, you actually have that option with this particular kids line figure. It's kind of fun. It looks like you can also remove the harness there as well. Those can also just be unstrapped, just like so. Very similar to the vintage figures. Like, the vintage figures always had removable armor bits as well. And then you might have noticed, of course, I pulled the sword out of the sheath. So he does have the sheath on his back. The power sword is just molded in a shinier silver plastic, but it feels really nice. It's a very cool looking sword. And the right hand on this figure, just like on the MOTU Origins figure, he's got the hinge joint on the underside of the hand. So that should allow you to get a fairly decent, by the power of Grayskull pose. He can't really look up super good, like you can't get his head looking upright too much, but like, man, I'm just really impressed with the overall quality of these figures at that lower $10 price point. It's pretty awesome. So I mentioned this in my review of the MOTU Origins figures, and I've already shown you guys the 6-inch figure a little bit, but there are 3 ongoing scales right now for the Masters of the Universe movie line, with this kids core line at the 5.5-inch mark, the Chronicles line at the 6.5-inch mark, and then there's also the Masters of the Universe Origins line at 5.5 inches, which is more based on those bulkier bodies of the vintage toys. I just wanted to throw that in here in this video as well, in case you're catching this one and didn't see my previous videos, so you can see see the scale difference between the 3 concurrent MOTU lines. All right, so let's go ahead and take a look at Teela then. So the likeness on He-Man I thought was really good. I think the likeness on this figure could be a little better. Like, I don't think it's a terrible likeness to Camilla, but I don't know, maybe it's the forehead or the way that the hair is laying like really flat on her head. Something about it is throwing the likeness off for me. There is a second Teela coming out in one of the future waves for this line where she's got the tiara and her hair pulled back in the bun, and that figure just from the photos already looks a lot better in my opinion. So yeah, likeness maybe isn't the best on this particular figure. I do like the body though as far as like the outfit goes, because look at the like gold and like that pearlescent white that's used on there. It's very shiny, and then of course it's got all of the flat brown straps with the pistol holster and everything there on her hip. So it's a very nicely painted, nicely detailed figure still. And she comes with 2 weapons. One of those is a blaster. Now this is just molded in like a gray plastic, so there's no extra paint detail. And while she does have a holster sculpted, unfortunately, it's not open, so you can't actually put the gun in the holster. You'll notice that her right hand does have a trigger finger, though, to hold on to that. And then she also comes with her sword, which is in a gold plastic, so there's no extra details there. So you can ever hold on to both those weapons, or one, whatever you prefer. If you prefer your Teela with a blaster, she's got it. If you'd rather have a sword, she's got that too. You know, all in all, this is still a really nice figure. And then we've got Mekaneck, and oh my goodness, look how bright and colorful this figure is. Now, he might be turned up a little bit as far as brightness goes for this toy, because he is blue and red in the movie. We've seen that, but I don't know if he's like this bright. This definitely has vintage MOTU vibes, and I like that quite a bit. Obviously, still instantly recognizable as Mekaneck, which is something I've been praising about the majority of the designs for this movie. He is a little bit more rounded out, right? Like, vintage Mekaneck had very blocky red armor, and he had that very triangular helmet. Now his helmet is round, his armor is more round. This armor is not removable. This is actually part of the sculpt, or at least it's placed over it. You can see like through these openings on the armor, there's like what looks like a robotic style body in there, which is pretty cool. And then of course you can see his robotic neck there as well. Interestingly, he comes with a blaster as well, which that's a pretty new and unique weapon for Mekaneck to use. Historically, the toys have always come with like a big yellow club or a club of some sort, so seeing him with a firearm is a little different for this particular character. But it is worth noting he does retain his action feature in a sense. It is not like the vintage toy where you would twist it and the neck would grow, but it does have these swappable neck pieces, which has been pretty commonly used. They did the same thing in Masters of the Universe Origins. They did the same thing in MOTU Classics. So this isn't like a new thing whatsoever, and it still gives you the option to basically extend his neck. So in order to do that, the heads are on ball joints, and they are also removable in this line. In fact, let's just do a quick confirmation. I'm pretty sure these are the same size. Yeah, look, like if I wanted to, I could put He-Man's head on Mekaneck's body, so we can do some head swapping in this line if we really wanted to. But the way that we're going to do the neck extensions on this one is you have 2 of these little extender pieces that will just clip onto the ball joint, and then you have a new ball joint at the top. So this is kind of cool because it gives you the option to extend his neck just a little bit like that, or if we want to add the second extension, it's easy to just pop that on the ball joint. You pop the head on the top of that, and now his neck is extra long, which is pretty cool. Now, of course, this does mean you've got some extra joints in there. You can kind of like bend that around since you got ball joints all the way through it, and it does kind of break it up a little bit. Like, it's not like a perfectly straight neck, but I mean, this is pretty cool, especially for like the kids' toy at this price point. I think that is really awesome that you've got the option to do this here. And while we're finishing out the heroes, we got to talk about Battlecat. We got a brand new Battlecat. I love me some Battlecat toys. 11 inches in length. He's about 5.5 inches tall, much like the figures. So standing He-Man next to him there, you can see he's actually got quite a bit of size to him. He's a pretty big cat-like character. So this one, since it's a basic figure, there's less going on. There's less articulation. You can see that the legs basically are just going to move forwards and backwards. There's no extra articulation here. You can move the ankles on the front paws, so the front legs, you do have ankle joints, so you can bend the ankles forwards and backwards and rock side to side. But on the back legs, there's no ankle joints, so they're basically just kind of stuck in these poses. You can move them forwards and backwards. They got those ratchet joints, but really, if you want to keep them standing, you've only got one way to put them. The tail is jointed nicely, so it can roll around. It's got a hinge on there as well, but the head is tied to his action features. So first of all, here's a good look at the face. I do love the Battlecat look in this movie. The helmet is a bit of an interesting redesign. The helmet kind of reminds me, I'm sure I'm going to talk about this more when I get to my Chronicles Battlecats. The helmet looks sort of like it's almost got a bit of a 2000X influence to it, but the 2000X one was even smaller. Like it basically just covered the top of his head down to the bridge of his nose. So this doesn't have like the big round back piece on it of vintage Battlecats, but I don't know, I like it. This is still clearly Battlecat, and I love that we're just getting Battlecat in the movie. Thankfully, he's there in the movie. But this guy has got a roaring action feature. So one of the spikes on the back of the figure will trigger this. So let's press that here so you can see. So it's a pretty fun feature. You'll notice when I'm clicking the button there, not only are we getting growls and roars, but he's lowering his head and his mouth is chomping. The only thing I will say about this is that it almost feels like the feature was put in backwards, because you'll notice like when he's in his normal, when you're not pushing the button, he's always arching his head up like he's roaring and his mouth is open. But pressing the button makes him lower his head and close his mouth, and that's when it roars, right? So it almost feels like it's backwards somehow, but it's still fun. Like it's still a lot of fun to chomp this around and attack it, and I don't know. I think kids are gonna have a lot of fun with it. So let's put He-Man on his back just so you guys can see what it looks like. But with the articulation on He-Man, he actually sits on there pretty nicely. And now you can pose your He-Man riding on Battlecat, which, oh my gosh, I still can't believe we're getting this in a movie. This is so freaking awesome. All right, but we can't leave without talking about some evil warriors. So in this first series here, I've got Skeletor, I've got Beastman, and I've got a Skell Knight, which is basically just like a stormtrooper for Skeletor, which is pretty cool. So these also, like just like I said about the He-Man and everything, like these are really, really nicely done. Skeletor does not have an articulated jaw on this version like the Chronicles figure, but I will say because of that, it actually almost looks a little bit better as far as like, I love the black in the cheeks right there. It kind of brings the whole face together a little bit. It still has like a real pale yellow look to it. There's glowing red eyes. The cloak, the hood there is sculpted as part of that, so it's not removable. You'll notice that it's all part of this sculpt coming down on the back right there. So again, very similar to what we saw in the Chronicles figure. He also has a plastic cape that's non-removable. It's a bit pliable, but it does not come off the figure. He's got his Havoc staff as his one accessory, and his articulation functions just like that of He-Man. So pretty cool looking figure there. I do really like this Skeletor. Beastman, you can see he's a bit chonkier. He's got some more size to him. He's a little heftier there. He comes with his whip, which is just a plastic whip, which is very nice. Good paint on here, like the gold medallion is painted there. There's a little bit of blue in the center of it. But I think this is a really nice Beastman. I actually really like the big hunched body on this one there. I'll point it out again. I pointed out before, but it's weird to me how the fur of his head matches the color of the fur on like the pelt that he's wearing over his shoulders, but then the rest of his body is like orange, like a light orange fur. But it's still a very cool looking figure. I actually really like the size of this. Look, he's even got like a little pouch on the back of his belt there. I think that is pretty cool. And then the Skell Knights are fun. Like, this is gonna be one of those things like, how many of us are gonna build an army? Like, are you gonna go in on the core figures and just get a whole bunch of Skull Knights? I've seen pictures that there's a variation out there too, where the armor looks a little bit more blue instead of gray, and that's awesome. That means I need to find that, because that'll also help with army building. I hope we get Skull Knights in some of the other lines too, like Chronicles and Origins, because I think it's fun. Skeletor, throughout the years, has had a variety of different like henchmen, foot soldiers. You know, be it like the hover robots or like the Skelcons. There's been all kinds of different army like that. Like, you need some cannon fodder for He-Man to punch around that aren't like our core villains, right? That's exactly what these guys are. So he comes with a sword, which is pretty cool. It's got a neat detail to it. There's like some texturing in the blade that I like. I think that is pretty cool. And I actually really like the armor that they're wearing. It's very Skeletor-esque, right? Because they kind of have like a bony looking face and some bones on the armor, but these guys are really cool. They have these cloaks covering the legs, and that definitely hinders the leg movement. So these are pliable, but they're pretty tightly wrapped around the legs. So you can see I can move the legs forward, but like that is clearly hindering the articulation just a bit there. But still, fun little batch of bad guys to fight with our heroes, and this isn't even all of what we're getting in this line. There's more coming, but we're not done. I want to talk about this Roton vehicle. So this has been featured heavily in the trailers, and it's awesome. The Roton is in the movie. The Roton has always been my favorite villain vehicle in Masters of the Universe. Now, this has clearly been totally redesigned for the movie, though still recognizable because it is a flying disc with razor blades, saw blades, whatever, spinning around it. But it is missing, like, the old look kind of had this, like, demon-y kind of face on the front of it, like with the eyes. You know, all of the vehicles in vintage Masters of the Universe kind of had an animal quality to them. And so some of these redesigns are lacking that. We got the Fright Fighter, which looks like a dragonfly, but this is obviously totally void of any animal qualities on here. Like, I don't know, maybe we can say that the front of the cherub here kind of looks like a face, and maybe that's exactly what this is, because it does look like we got eyes and a mouth up there. In fact, that's almost very Road Ripper-esque, right? With that face on the front of it. So I definitely think they tried to work some of that in there still, which is kind of fun. But what's neat about this is that the vintage Roton was always a vehicle that, you know, kind of flew around this direction. And in the movies so far, we've seen it kind of flying up on its side in the trailers. But you'll notice, like, look at this. It's got this great, like, gyro rotation in there. So when I move it downwards, the seat moves facing this way. When I bring it upright, the seat moves upright. So that way, when you're flying this around, it's going whichever direction you want it to face. And it's got this handle on the end of it with this button inside. So when you press the handle, the saw blades spin. I mean, if they wanted a toy that would be fun for kids to play with, are you kidding me? This is awesome. This is so very awesome. So I think the trick with this is gonna be to see which one of these first figures I have are gonna fit on there the best, because the skirt piece on the Skelcon here, or the Skell Knight, sorry, is gonna make it tricky probably to sit on this thing the correct way, but let's see if we can get them on there. Yeah, that's definitely a bit tricky. So you've got little, let me put it in here so you can see it on this camera. So you got little foot pegs back here that the feet can plug into, but the skirt is making it a little hard to get him to hold on to that. And then you've got handles up here in the front that the figures can grip onto as well. And you can see they kind of ride it like a motorcycle. See the way he's like sitting on that there? But like the way his legs keep falling down, so it's hard to get him to like actually plug into this. And I think it's because of the skirt piece on the Skelcon here. And then like my Skeletor has got like this big cape, so I'm a little worried about that too. But let's try Skeletor, why not? There we go. So Skeletor actually got on there. He's pretty good. I will say the only problem is the cape is kind of hitting the back here, so it's kind of making it a little harder for this to turn where it's supposed to. But look at that. Look at Skeletor. Skeletor Skeletor getting in on the action. He's flying the Roton, which is pretty fun. So here we go. We got our Skeletor and the Roton. So see if we turn it. See, the cape is making him stick a little bit, but look at that. You can make him so he's this direction. We can turn it, now he's flying this direction. I mean, honestly, this is pretty dang fun. And then you'll notice that we got the cannons, where there's 4 cannons. And so, like, obviously when you're turned to the side, you can move the cannons this direction. So these missiles that are on the top and the bottom, or the sides, or however you want to look at it, I don't believe these are actually rocket firing, because there doesn't seem to be a button, and really there's no mechanism in there. There's no spring or anything like that in there. So it looks like these are just kind of to hold these missiles. They kind of just clip into place. But where you do have a firing missile is right down here on the bottom. And there's a push button right up here on this. So let me see, what's the best direction to have him facing for this? There we go. Okay, so right there. And this is where I'm going to lose this missile. So we push this button here. There we go. Oh, it actually bounced back on the table. I got very lucky there. So that is where your firing missile comes from, is from the front of the ship up here, and then you've got extra missiles kind of stored here. So these are like pretend missile launchers, but then you can pop these out. They actually hold on to them pretty tight. I don't think there's, it makes me feel like these are supposed to shoot, but I don't think they do, because there's no buttons on these. Maybe I'm missing something. You guys can tell me if I'm wrong there. So does the Roton work with any of the other MOTU movie lines? Well, here's Triclops from the Chronicles line, and yeah, kinda. So he looks a little big. He looks like he might be a little crowded in there. But you can see I've got him sitting on the bike. I've got his feet plugged in. Well, I had his feet plugged in. This one came unplugged. And he's holding on to the handles up there. I'm not sure how well it rotates. Oh, it does. I mean, like, you could probably fudge that if you want this to work with your MOTU Chronicles figures. So that is an option for you there. Does it work with Masters of the Universe Origins? Yeah, I think that looks really good. I stuck He-Man in there because as far as like movie Origins goes, he's got the best standard like body right now. But you can see I was able to plug his feet on the back. He's holding on to the handles. Let's see if does it rotate with him on there. Yeah, maybe he needed a little assist, but like that looks good. So if you want to use this with Masters of the Universe Origins, I think that's totally doable. I mean, honestly, this is just kind of cool because if you think this vehicle looks cool, but you're not sure you want to collect the core line, I think you can fit this in your display with some of these other movie lines if it's something that you want to do. But all in all, that's a super fun toy. I really like it. So there you go, my friends. There is a bit of an introduction to the kids' core lineup. My look at some of the first releases in this brand new movie line. And overall, I'm extremely impressed with these. Seriously, the low price point, I know I keep talking about it, but the low price point, you get so much bang for your buck with these. Like, these are great toys. And it makes me really happy that these exist, because if kids go see this movie and they love this movie, these are some great toys for their parents to then pick them up and they can reenact the adventures from the movie. I know that's exactly what Mattel's going for here. These are awesome. These are awesome. So, like, seriously, huge props to Mattel for not like phoning it in with a movie line. I've talked about this before, but I'm not really like a movie toy line guy. I always like it when my toys look like toys, when they're more comic booky, when, you know, whatever. But like, I've been just impressed across the board with all of the movie offerings from Mattel so far with Masters of the Universe. And we're definitely going to be taking a look at a lot more of these. Like, this is not all that's out there for core. There's some deluxe figures out there that we'll be taking a look at here soon. The Amazon exclusive box set. And there's more of these on the way. Plus more Origins, plus more Chronicles. We have so much MOTU. This is insane.